guy behind me. It's a dark.
All right, what's going on, guys? Phil and Cruz here
Hello, hello.
live at Waypoint Cafe. Second week back, I should say, that Cruz is from his adventure out in Colorado, and over the course of the weekend, he went out hiking. I couldn't join him. I had some obligations. We could talk about that later. Um, but he went out on some hiking, and it sounds like you're going to be looking to do some international travel at
As
some point in the
soon
near
as
future.
possible. Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely looking more towards the international travel is obviously as soon as that's open. Just kind of planning it, seeing what's out there, seeing where you can actually go. I know some people are probably getting a little antsy about just being able to kind of live their life right now. Um,
Yeah,
being, of course, you don't want to get anybody sick. You don't want that to happen to you, and of course, but people also, want their life to continue in a fashion that they've been used to. Um, I mean, what are we closing in on now? 6 months or so about
yeah,
since like official quarantine went on. So I mean, so say it's like stretching another 9 months, a year or so. Like that's like it's a year of a person's life. That's that's not a small thing.
yeah,
That's not a small thing. It all started out thinking it was going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months. Like, okay, sure, that's a little bit. You start, I know we're only at 6 months, but you start closing in on a year. You used a year of someone's life.
yeah.
That's
2020 is
that's
just
pretty
just an odd year.
impactful.
2020 is
That's
an odd
pretty
year.
impactful.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. I think people are getting ants in their pants with the whole situation. You know, um, I think I think people are really feeling that they're losing out on some connections, across the board. Like, oh, hey, they want to go out at a bar on Friday night. Oh, sorry, you can't.
That's some of the biggest stuff. I mean, obviously, I don't, neither of us go out anywhere like we used to, but I still enjoy a good social atmosphere. Um, like that, especially when you're traveling, actually doing that when you're traveling in different cities and everything is amazing. That's one of my favorite things to do in between getting out when
Yeah,
you're actually in a city. That's a phenomenal aspect of it, and that's completely gone. I said about Denver. I think Denver would have been uh, amazing. Some of the locations that they had there in Lodo and everything were awesome, but just didn't get a chance to enjoy them because they were closed up. Um,
yeah. I think it's really tough, right? Because you figure even now, I mean, restaurants are only open until 8 or at the most maybe like 10 o'clock.
maybe 10.
Like, and that's kind of pushing it. And there's further restrictions. I don't know if you saw, but apparently, I don't know how much they're going to be enforcing this, but in Massachusetts, they're trying to enforce, like, oh, if you're coming from a different state or internationally, um, you're required to quarantine, and then you need a testing and things like that. I don't know how they're going to manage doing that in Massachusetts, but I just find this like they're they're just making it harder and harder for people to do anything. Even, it's not going to have that same restriction between Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But if you're coming, say, from California or Florida or New York, right, you're going to have a tougher time getting into Massachusetts. And if they're really going to be enforcing this lockdown thing with people from outside the state, it doesn't do anyone any favors. I think honestly, I think people are. I trust in people. I think people are smart enough to be like, hey, you know what? If they're going to go out in public, they're going to wear the mask. They're going to, practice social distancing. And most places are already, um, you know, set that up where they have outside patios. You know, tables and chairs are far apart. I mean, how much more does the state, and I want to specifically say the state government is regulating, you know, these restrictions, because it's definitely not the federal government, or it's not within their jurisdiction to do that, um, unless they're if they need to intervene. But it's really the state. So who knows what the travel is going to be, right? Down the road. So it's it's crazy. That's what it is. It's really crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy, crazy is a good word for it. So we'll uh we'll see how that goes. We're definitely looking at some international. So some places are open and open up, and you can go, but some of them are you're not like. There's no way you would ever go there. Not just because it's the place. So there was one I'd have to look at. I have to double check in Southeast. I had the list up earlier in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Um, and we can Google it and check it out. So one of the things before you go, you have to deposit $3,000 into an account there.
What?
Yep. So you have to deposit
Oh,
3,000. Let me pull this up while I'm talking to you.
oh my goodness. Why?
Open to you,
I want to
Taurus.
know. I want to know why.
So I believe this was the article that I read. It's been updated. Um, so you deposit the $3,000, and you go there, you land, you take a test. So $160 of it is gone no matter what, and that's to cover the test and to put you up in a hotel for the 24 to 48 hours and take care of you for that time frame. Not a terrible price for a test and being taken care of for that stretch. That's not bad. You're clean, you're good. You get the rest of your money back. But if you test positive, the rest of the money is used for safety and protection and everything
Mm,
because you brought the virus in, and that money's gone. So,
wow. That's different. And okay, what country is this?
I'm looking for it.
So I'm guessing that's probably going to be X'd off your list, at least for the time being.
Yeah, that's a no go. That that's a no go. First of all, if you're doing that, I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm questioning that. I'm questioning that test. I'm
Yeah,
I'm questioning that test.
that's not a bad idea to have.
Like,
Not
yeah,
a
you're
ba-
positive. It's been 2 minutes. Like, nope, you're positive. I'm sorry.
you don't even show up at the test. You're positive.
Yeah, yeah, nothing. Just they don't even like you didn't even test me yet. Like, nope, you're positive. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's kind of how I feel about it. Let's see. Open to U.S. Serbia open with restrictions. Aruba, Barbados, Cambodia. Here it is. It's Cambodia. Actually, I apologize. It was not Southeast Asia. Cambodia. Yes. Dummy.
Cambodian.
So, is it technically? It is Southeast Asia right there. Yeah. Um. Yes. Negative test result within 72 hours. $3,000. COVID-19 deposit. So here's the list of them that I'm just looking through, and I'll give you the quick little highlights. So here's countries that are open that you can go through: Albania, Dominican Republic, Kosovo, Maldives, Mexico, North Macedonia, Serbia, Tunisia, and Turkey. And those are listed basically without any restrictions.
Mm.
Open with restrictions. A lot of the Caribbean is Antigua and Barbuda, Aruba, Barbados, and then we have Belize, Bermuda, Cambodia, Egypt. Ecuador is actually on the list, good sir. Mandatory 14 quarantine, negative results within 7 days. Croatia, negative COVID-19 test, not older than 48 hours, presented on arrival. French Polynesia, Ireland, Jamaica, Rwanda, St. Barret, St. Lucia, St. Martin, Ukraine, so a lot, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Turks and Caicos, Ukraine, United Arab, and then the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom actually never closed, ever, to U.S. citizens.
Mm.
You actually could have gone there the whole time. I believe they still do this, the 14-day quarantine and stuff, but they remained open the entire time. Self-isolate for 14 days.
Yeah,
Did
that's.
it with the United
I think that's one of the hard parts that I'm trying to understand with the whole quarantine thing. Because I've talked to Sophia about that on several occasions. She's like, so I told you before over text message, right? Like I'm having a tough time getting a hold of the
So I
consulate
read
here.
something. Yeah, I know. I read the thing about Ecuador. Like you have to pass the first negative test or whatever. They were talking about you needed to get a hotel room in an approved location in one of the cities, whether it was Quito or Guayaquil.
Well, Sophia was even saying that, and I don't know how true this is, that a police officer follows you to the.
Yeah, and you have to have the room. Like you have to before you allow through. You have to have like the room already booked and everything there at this like hotel and stuff.
Yeah. So, um, we're trying to figure out what the arrangement is, but there is the requirement that I need 3-day testing or testing several days in advance to show that I don't have COVID.
Yeah.
But again, it's like how they're gonna manage that other than like, oh, if there are reservations and there are 14 days already booked, does it mean do I quarantine at my place of uh, the designated arrival, or is it a specific area? You know what I mean? Like it's very up in the air, and how they're managing it it seems very kind of strange. Um, and it's not easy to get a hold of the consulate in Ecuador. It's not easy to get a hold of the consulate here in the U.S. I've actually tried several times since I've gotten back in the U.S. To no avail. It's been quite difficult. And today they have I think it's their Independence Day, so the whole country, including their consulates, are closed at least for today. So yeah, it's like the whole traveling situation is so weird. It's like there are these huge trade offs. The price for a ticket it's so low, but the barrier to getting into a place is so high.
And I mean, I mean you. I guess you can discuss about it. Like, is it the right time to travel? Are you doing a disservice to people by traveling right now to other people? It's the old moral question of what you believe and what is right. Should you not be traveling right now?
Are you asking me, or are you just asking the general public?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think based on what I've been studying, I think that as long as someone takes the necessary precautions that's provided and just following the rules, I think generally it's okay. I mean, the way I think of it is like, it's a virus. How small a virus is. There's viruses in the air right now. There's microbes in the air right now. How far do we take this concept? Like I said, there's a lot of questions I have of how things have been put in place, but just because I have questions doesn't mean that governments and hospitals and organizations are going to stop what they're doing regulating. Those are the things that we have to kind of navigate through. And for me, I think it's okay. But again, generally speaking, it's the part that I find kind of confusing is at the airport, and I'm sure you experience this too. At the airport, you got to practice social distancing. The minute you get in the airplane, need not apply. And
Yeah.
there's kind of this disconnect with the information that it's tough to nail down what's true and how severe any of this stuff is. Like I said, we're not gonna, I'm not gonna be out there trying to break any rules. I'm going to follow the necessary precautions to make sure that everyone's safe. Um, but to me right now, I think it's totally okay. Well, not totally okay, but it's okay to travel out there. Just being aware, doing a little bit of research before going. Not going into things blindly. Because I had discussions with people on Facebook and the Facebook network of expats that live or travel to Ecuador, um, that stay in the general area that I'm going to be staying at, and they brought up some good points. They post stuff and about their experience traveling when the restrictions were far greater. Now the restrictions have slowed down a little bit, um, but one of the things that they talk about is like, oh yeah, you got you got the 14-day quarantine, and then now the newest thing is showing evidence that you got tested and that it tested negative. So but then and the other aspect of it too is what type of test. There's antibody, there's like the swab, and then there's like the blood test. So there's several tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you validate which one is better? There's good and bad for each of them. So again, it's like how it's being how it's being regulated is it's not as clear cut. But I can understand why too, because if you think about it, I mean, in 6 months, it's a fairly good amount of time. But if you think about just how governments move, to come up with rules and regulations for this type of stuff is like it's all up in the air. I mean, who knows? Who knows what it is? I think most importantly, I think with the traveling, the more informed somebody is with the facts, with with as much of the facts, and then being able to interpret the data information, someone can make a more educated decision on that. Luckily for me, I have a few friends that are doctors, and I've consulted with them about what they think about um, you know what's going on, and they have different views. So it's not like I said, it's some of the things that are being put out there not so clear, and then just getting firsthand accounts of people that are in the field. I can get a broader sense of like for myself and how I encounter traveling as being like I think it's it's a good time to do it in the sense of things are cheap and you still have the ability to do it, but the restrictions are really high. You figure, I mean, like I was texting you the other day, the flights or the places that you can go to is only about like 30. And before, you had almost every country in the world that was open. Now it's like, it's dropped down pretty
Yeah.
significantly. So, the question is, does that stay like that? Does it eventually open up? You know what I mean? Like, who knows at this stage?
I don't know. It's
What about you? What do you think?
um I I think you do have to question it a little bit. Even though of course, I've been traveling. I plan on travel. I think you do have to question it. I think it would be wrong if you didn't at least take a step back and evaluate yourself and say, are my views wrong? Am I making the incorrect decision on what I believe? Because I talk and I asked other people, and then traveling and talking to a lot of different people. A lot of people have different, very varying views on it. I would say people that I met when I was, recently traveling, of course, they're out, they're about, they're going and doing things. So they're a little more, say, free spirited in their beliefs and what they think of how things are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back and you speak with other people, speak with coworkers. I recently talked to somebody that worked with that has younger kids, and I said, I don't want to. We're not face to face right now, of course, so I don't want to get into any deep discussion. But like you have kids. And they're younger. What's your view on the kids going back to school? Are you a big push on them going back? Do you not want them to go back? Do you think What's yours? Not getting too deep on anything, because you don't want to have a conversation like that where potentially have differing just at a distance. I don't think that's a great way to have a talk
Mm-hmm.
like that. Uh, and he said he's like distance learning, fully in on the distance learning.
Mm.
Not going. He's like, there's no way you can keep them apart. Just go fully distance learning. And he's like, honestly, I think we need to shut it down again. So he's very, very
Mm.
far. And I said, and this is somebody that I think is intelligent. I think we probably differ a lot on a lot of other views just from having talked to him before.
Sure.
But I like him. We're friendly. It's not like just because we have different views. He's a funny guy. Has a good sense of humor about stuff. We just probably fundamentally disagree on some other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Where me, I don't have the kids, I don't have anybody I'm coming home to, so I have a different perspective on it. I was wondering what his was, being like younger kids and everything. And yeah, he's fully distant. So I said, he's the one with actual like skin and kids in the game. So what's his view? Because I was just kind of feeling, what's my right to weigh in on that when I don't actually have children? How do you do that? How do you make that decision and decide, right?
Yeah. Well, that point that you brought up with the kids, I've talked with other parents, and they want their kids to go back to school. Like,
Without skin in the game as being just going off of data, without having actual children that you have that like fatherly or motherly instinct about.
Yeah.
If you take a step, and for me, and I just have data, they're more likely to like die in like a school bus crash than from COVID.
Yeah.
That's just what the numbers show. I mean, it was as of whatever, the last time I looked, July 31st, California, absurd number of cases, under 18 deaths were 0.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, more kids over the course of that time, significantly more kids over the course of that time die from drugs or suicide. Not even close, actually.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy that I follow. His name is Tony Heller. He's an electrical engineer. Well, at least on his videos and stuff like that, and his website describes that he's an electrical engineer. But his main expertise was working on programs for the weather. So, he has very different views about what's going on with climate change. But more recently, has been talking a lot about data sets with politics and stuff like that. And he does a video talking about death rates right now in the U.S. and the death rates are below average compared to other years. So even with the beer bug, like the death rates have actually declined compared to 2019, 2018.
There's a lot of deaths are associated with like, vehicular crashes. Of course, that's significantly down.
Yeah. So
everything else I would say is about the same, or I would say actually potentially worse. I would say right now we're probably at a higher risk of death due to heart disease, stress induced, along with lack of activity and being quarantined, poor eating habits. I would say, based on my own personal first 2 months of it, that's probably at a higher percentage because I ate out a ton. I was like, well, we'll get back to the working out in a little bit. We'll just ride this quarantine. That's what it was. And I'm somebody that's very active, and I did that.
Yeah.
Somebody that was already borderline.
Yeah.
I would assume that they're right up and over.
Yeah. Well, it's so we're not in the field, but it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to me that a sound mind and a sound body, or having a sound mind, equates to having a sound body. So if you're not mentally healthy, right, then the body will follow. It's kind of like MMA, like, oh, how to fight somebody. Well, if you control the head of the opponent, right, that you can you can do a lot of grappling and things like that. It's kind of the same. It's kind of like the same thing with being healthy. If your head's not healthy, if you're not, like if you think about it, right? Someone who's happy is gonna feel healthier, right? Because they're happy, they're at a
Of
good mental
course.
state. So
Of
if you
course.
got a whole bunch of people that's been at home, like dealing with their kids at home, freaking out, right? Like, are they going to be more sick or more apt to get sick? Someone who has high stress, I would guarantee, would have a higher likelihood of a heart attack over somebody who just didn't have the same level of stress. So someone with the same level of stress is going to have the higher chance of getting symptoms of being sick, or they're going to get sick faster. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm not a doctor, but common sense just tells me, yeah, healthy mind, healthy is a healthy body. And I think there's a lot of situations right now where people are just feeling under the weather, or they become a little bit of a hypochondriac because they've been inside so much.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, obviously we've talked about how we feel about everything. It's even me. There'll be at certain times, just recently, like wake up. Oh, I got a little tickle in my throat, and your brain immediately goes forward 22 steps, and then I'm
Yeah,
like, wait a minute, like I've woken up with a tickle in my throat, and it's been absolutely nothing more times than I can remember.
yeah.
Like, relax, get up, go have a glass of water. You're fine. But that's how it is right now. I understand that, and I'm probably much farther away than a lot of other people. I could only imagine somebody that was actually a bit of a hypochondriac must be living with complete anguish 24/7 right now with everything being sent to them. I mean, oof, that's got to be unbelievable right going on. So,
Have you
uh,
ever in high school? Have you ever read the book Ethan Frome?
I did not know.
It's a story about um, a hypochondriac woman who has this husband who falls for the woman's sister, and the woman's never sick, but she always claims to be really sick, and it's one
Yeah,
way of like how she controls her husband, and like eventually, like it takes. I don't want to. It's actually a really good story, but this whole sickness thing has like made me think about that story. But so the main I want to say there was they made it into a movie, but anyway, so the husband falls in love with the sister, and then a bunch of bad stuff happens, and all of a sudden, like the sickness becomes real because because it's because they wanted to believe it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Mhm.
it's a sad story. So I'll give away that part of the ending. But that's what this whole thing reminds me of. It's like there is this elevated nature of 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 the interpretation of information and what people want to believe, and then there's the aspect of like what sort of actions people are taking to deal with it. How are they dealing with their mental health, how are they dealing with just staying physically healthy, and on top of that, asking the question like, is it safe to travel? Some friends thought I was crazy, you know that
Oh, I have
even
family members
considered.
that think I'm crazy.
But you didn't answer the question though. So what do you think about traveling? You think it's okay?
I was questioning myself, which I think you always should. You should
Sure,
always second guess.
sure.
I have to say I'm completely okay with the travel. I will follow the guidelines because it's the socially responsible thing to do for other people.
Hmm.
Um, I don't have any issues with the guidelines. I have no problem, um, in general, with them. Whether I agree with all of the currently provided data or anything is a different discussion.
Sure, sure, yeah.
I think it's two different discussions. I think based on what you have for general data and certain items, that uh, some of the restrictions are appropriate. I just, you know, we can debate the other piece separately.
Mm.
But for me, if I follow the guidelines, maybe they're not exactly to the absolute letter, but absolutely, within reason, I don't see any issue with it. And if the other people are out and they've accepted those items and they're fine with it, then perfect. If you don't agree with them, then you don't have to go out. I'm not going to your house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not forcing you to be at work. If I'm traveling and I need some type of resource or anything that is cause for your employment, I mean, there's the only other way is like there would be no one there, and then there would be no one to pay you at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double edge along those lines as far as that goes. Generally speaking, if I'm going to be interacting with you with the restrictions right now, they're very reasonable. I'm going to have a mask on. I'm not touching you. I'm not coming within 6 feet of you.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the cause of anything. So
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, right? We're not we're not trying to force anyone to think of the way that we're thinking about it, because it sounds like we're in agreement with a lot of this stuff with the traveling, and some of the data points that you and I talked about pretty extensively. The thing is, right? It's like everyone has that choice. The part that for me, I think is kind of strange, even though, so we're not enforcing other people to take on the same type of lifestyle that we're doing. Um, but at the same time, is like, should the government need to enforce that if people are already enforcing that on themselves? You know,
if they didn't, I don't think if they didn't go as far as they did, I think people would be doing whatever they wanted, honestly.
which
Which,
a lot of people I think would, like if like you said, for say your coworker, right? It's like, oh, they wouldn't bring their kids to school. Well, nothing's really telling them that they have to bring their kids to school, right? So what would be the difference if they already have that in their mind? And I can totally understand where parents would have reservations about bringing their kids to school.
of course, your children. That's why it's a little tough for me not having children or not having had children to
that you know of.
feel good about weighing in on it that I
Yeah.
know of. To feel good about weighing in on it because of that, protective nature that comes with having a child.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, this is what I think, but I don't have a kid. So sure, you guys talk about it, you guys make your decision.
Exactly.
If I'm just
Like there's no, we're not forcing their hand, but at the same, like I said, the point I was getting at is like, does the government need to be the facilitators of those types of things when apps for me, I trust people to be like, oh, they're going to make that decision. Okay. I don't need to, have my hand over their roof to get them to do that. Like, they already have the information that describes to them, what the risks are. The same way that you and I have, come out with our own confirmation, our own conclusion about what we think about travel, right? Like and people are coming up with their own solution. Like I said, if you, like I said, I think if you talk to like 10 parents, you're going to get 50% that don't want to send their kids to school. And then you're going to get the other 50% that like, no, they should go to school. Because again, there's a lot of other things involved in that. And that's up to the parents to decide. That's not up to me to regulate that for them. That's not up to me to regulate, what you do, like, oh, Cruz, you gotta eat. You're gonna have to eat meatball and spaghetti every day. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's a
Like,
difficult one,
yeah,
right? Um, you don't know people's factors at home. It's a lot. There's a lot going on with that
yeah.
one.
Like I said,
But
it's not up to me. It's not up to me to decide you know, how people want to regulate their life. Like that's, you know, I'm hands off with that type of stuff. Like, you know,
So I think the government, I think definitely, which went so I think the government definitely did have to step in certain fashions, of course. I
yeah,
think there's certain things that are a bit overstepping. So like Mass has the quarantine,
yeah.
right? Okay, sure, sounds great. There's one line in there that I was like, you guys can go bleep off, which was the 500 fine per day.
Yeah.
Like people aren't working, there's unemployment through the roof. You're gonna try and institute a fine on the quarantine? Like, get out of here. Like, there's other things. Like, that's don't even ever even try that. That's absurd. I mean, we just basically took $2 trillion, lit it on fire, and donated it to TVs and iPhones from Amazon and Apple. I mean, if you look at the quarterly earnings, that's where the $2 trillion just went. So let's let's be serious. It didn't go to small business. It went to Apple and Amazon. iPhone sales and TVs were through the roof.
Yeah.
Um, Best Buy barely being able to keep up with TV sales after the stimulus check goes out. I mean, is there, all right, great job. But
There's all those 8K TVs, man.
yeah, I know. I know. So,
Oh,
but
man.
that's a completely that's a different one. Now I forgot where I was going with that because we got distracted by that foolishness. But
But
either way, so yes, I'm good with traveling. So now then that gets to a couple items. International travel.
okay.
I think for me, with the restrictions, international travel, because something could change and I could be stuck. And that I'm working remote. It's awesome. I'm going to be working remote for a long time going forward. It's going to give me some amazing opportunities. The one I just did in Colorado. I'm
Mm,
planning on going to Utah, which is going to be amazing. I'll be in the United States of America.
mm, okay.
If at some reason state to state travel is stopped and I could not get back to my state in the United States of America, I think I have a bigger issue than worrying about work at that current time. Like things have gone extremely, extremely awry for that to happen. Maybe
Mm,
when I get back, I got to quarantine. Maybe I got to quarantine for 2 months when I got back. But for them to say, no, you can't come back, that would be impressive, we'll say.
impressive.
So, but for international, it could change. You could be stuck. I could be stuck in a country that I don't want to be in with no real way to get out. You were there, but you had a place to stay. Would it be the end of the world? No. Would I make it work? Of course. But I would be putting into jeopardy potentially, relationship with the employer, other things that could weigh in that I have to account for that makes me a little nervous. It's probably not the best idea to do right now for the international.
Sure, sure.
Now, stateside US, yeah, of course. I'm going to go. Definitely. That's without question.
Mm,
So for international, I was an interesting article. I actually saw it on Reddit. It was sent over to me, which is something that I want to discuss and plan out. Hopefully, things stay as is, and then as far as remote, and then things clear up as far as the virus goes. But there was a very good article that said, 1 month stays, basically like, how do I travel across Europe, staying 1 month at a country at a time, working?
mm,
So the idea is that you're getting that when you're moving around a lot and not getting, say, a long-term rental or cheaper housing, that the housing starts to be expensive along with the extra little travel and moving back and forth.
yep.
Upside, there's bonuses, pros and cons. Pros, the adventure is really going. You're kind of always on the move. You have that little unknown, which is great. Cons, the price, things aren't settled. You still have to work potentially. While I had amazing times in the hostels,
Mm-hmm.
people that were there necessarily weren't really not that they weren't on the same level or page as I am. That's not what I mean. Just some people that you were there, they were just in different walks of life. They had different aspects. They were at different points in life that maybe we didn't align with, as far as where I am and what's going on with me.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Elaborate.
Just, the whole, I'm digitally working remote, whereas, you get that stereotypical, like, oh, kind of just broke or I'm off right now kind of traveler that might be going through a hostel. Like, just that's what you can get. It's cheap, right?
I don't know about you, but I love the culture. Like,
I do love them too. I had a blast. I can't really knock them. I can't really say anything.
Right? It's one of those things where, like, everyone who knocks it have never been, but that some of the greatest experiences I had was at hostels. I met incredibly wonderful people that were professionals. I met a guy who was pre-IPO Facebook investor. I don't know how true it was, but he had just this kind of like this, like, just whatever attitude. He's like, yeah, man, I'm just doing whatever right now. It just
might have been real.
It might have. I've met a few authors of what is it? The accidental genius. It was out in where is it? It was in Arizona, towards the southern rim of the Grand Canyons. I'm forgetting the name of the town. Anyway, there was an author there, was just staying indefinitely in a hostel, and he was sitting down having a coffee, for breakfast. It was really early. I was, gonna drive off to go check out the Grand Canyon, and so I'm like, what's up to him? I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? I'm like, so what, what's your story? He goes, thinking about my next book. I'm like, oh, okay. What did you write? He's like, oh, have you ever heard of the Accidental Genius? I'm like, no. It's like, oh, it's I did really well with a book, and now I'm just thinking about what my next book is. And it was just chilling. He was like,
yeah.
So I asked him, I was like, what are you doing at the hostel? He's like, oh, I just love the culture, and like the area is really nice. And had a few more discussions, and then I was off on my way. But
that was that, yeah.
You're gonna. The thing is with hostels, and you've seen it when we were out in Peru, right? Like, some of the people that we were dealing with, like Spencer, engineering manager for the military in Canada. If you didn't talk to him, you would never know that. You would not know that. But
I would say the only issue with the hostel is I found it at times sometimes you have to really check the hostel, because I need a good co-work location within.
Sure.
Which, from the setups of them, is not always extremely conducive.
Well, one of the things with places like Southeast Asia, like Thailand in particular, that I'm thinking of, they're very much they very much cater to the digital nomad. More specifically,
Southeast Asia travel looks awesome. Why? Why?
Like, at least all this
looks so good.
Like, all the stuff that I've seen on YouTube, and like some news broadcasts of people that travel, that digital nomad out there, where they're a lot of them different levels of wealth and things like that, different types of work, but you would never think that this is a thing, but it's a thing. Like this there's areas in Thailand where there's offices specifically for people, like they have, like the shared workspace, where you go there, you have your place that you rent out, and then you go there and you pay, like whatever amount it is for the
Southeast Asia.
In Southeast Asia.
If you're renting out a workspace there, like, Southeast Asia looks amazing. It's gorgeous. The food, everything, and then the price for how far like your dollar goes and everything. It's It's really good. I really want to go really bad for a while. Yeah, you could be living at like a rather beautiful, like hostel style spot, rent out a co-work location, be eating great and everything, and your total monthly expense would be like $1,000.
And that's not being aggressive. That's not being aggressive about saving money.
No, that's like eating out all the time, basically.
Yeah.
Renting like a co-work spot and paying for like it's unbelievable. It's so
And,
that's different. No, that's interesting.
yeah, and
So I wonder how that would be Europe, because obviously we've talked about it. My big focus would be about the Europe travel. Say you're going to do it for 4 or 5 or 6 months or so. Pick 6 countries that are spaced out,
mm,
but are kind of in the central location where while you're there, you can get to another country that you maybe want to go and see part of for a few days or something.
yeah.
Or you pick a city in one of the countries that you like, but it's on the border. So that way you can easily travel back and go back and forth and kind of hit multiple spots.
Well, I know that you were saying that Europe is big on your list. So I was talking to the guy, that I partner with,
Yeah.
in Czech Republic. Guess how much a flight to Greece is from another European country? Just take a wild guess.
Oh, flying into
Round trip.
I don't know, $78. Going low.
$5.
You can't operate a plane for that.
Dude,
Gas costs more than that.
Dude, he was telling me, he goes,
subsidized by the EU. Is that why they're broke?
Dude, I don't even know. But what they charge the most with is like bags. So he's telling me him and his family are going to be going.
Your body is $5. Your bag is 82.
Yeah. And I was
right, fair enough. Well played.
He and I were joking around. It's like, oh, you don't go there with any bags. You just go there and just buy new clothes. Because
cheaper.
Because you don't need any. Like you don't need to bring it because it's only $5. So I was like, $5. And he was saying he's like, oh, there's the possibility that they could get stuck in Greece and blah blah blah, but they're willing to take the risk because it's only $5. It's like, dude, what can you buy with $5 today? Like, what can you buy with $5?
My coffee, when I go to my place, like that I prefer the cold brew from, costs that $5. So that's more than any sub I've bought recently.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you got,
you can't. I haven't even gone to McDonald's and spent less than $5.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, it's fast food restaurant. It's less than fast food restaurant prices, to go to these places. So as far as traveling, at least the traveling expenses going to Europe or getting to different countries in Europe is going to be excessively low, assuming that things just kind of stay the same, right? So I know that you wanted to go to Europe, but I had a meeting with with a guy from the Czech Republic, and he was telling me, oh yeah, I'm going on a trip, and I was like, he asked me like what I thought the price was. I had the same kind of answer. I don't know, $78, $50. I don't know. No, $5. I'm like, what? Because I'm all proud. I'm like, oh yeah, my flight to Ecuador is super cheap. And then he told me his. I'm like, damn it, like someone got a lower price than my international flight. Yeah. So
go ahead.
If you're thinking about Europe, and if you're thinking about saving money to travel to European countries, this might be.
Well, so what happens? I know I'm a U.S. citizen, but what if I'm flying in from a different country? What if you're like, well, I know I'm a U.S. citizen, but I've been in the United Kingdom already for a month. So don't I fall under United Kingdom travel rules now, right?
I don't know. You would have to talk with the consulate.
just as far as like the quarantine, like the whole thing about being allowed in. Like, okay,
I
I'm
don't
in the
know.
UK, I've been in, or do
Oh,
they always, no matter where you're coming from, treat you as a US citizen? You're like, I haven't been there in 2 months.
well, your passport's going to show your passport's going to show where you landed and how long you've been staying. So
Yeah.
so
But
they
if you try and fly somewhere and you land and they're just like, we're not letting you in, there's not much you can do about it.
well that sounds more like and I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really speak with this in any authoritative manner, but it sounds like whatever the restrictions are based, having a U.S. passport is going to have whatever restrictions that country, what the U.S. has with that country. But as far as like time spent, I don't know. I don't know how any of this is being managed. You know, um, I'm just basing it on like, okay, like the the international relations between the countries and their passports and things like that, or citizens of a certain country, you know, is with that other country. Like for instance, USA and Ecuador, like whatever those regulations are between US and Ecuador, it's kind of like it's different from, Ecuador and Mexico or Ecuador and
Yep.
Canada, right? All the rules are different, and how they're applied is, or how they're regulated, I should say, is a little bit different. Like like the for someone from Ecuador coming to the U.S., there's different regulations compared to like someone from the U.S. going to Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely check that out, because I'd like to know too, what you find, and I'm sure anyone who has these ideas about looking into travel. Um, I think it makes sense to keep an eye on these types of things, or at least be aware of what that is. Because it sounds like to me you're planning to do 2 months in 2 months in England, and then making your way to the other side of Europe.
Yeah, not the worst idea ever.
It's not a bad idea. That's a great idea. Like
Like,
like I said,
hey,
hey, $5 to get to the next country. I would say
I'm
that's
already
pretty
here.
good.
I'm already here. I'm good, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm good, and I'm safe, why can't I travel?
yeah. Well, I think if you go to England, you're I don't think you're gonna have problems like with internet and stuff of that nature. So
No, no, I think I would be fine.
I think as you get into more rural European countries, those things will start to um, make an impact.
That's the kind of the concern, but I would be holed up, usually in more major cities.
Yeah,
So I think it would be, for the most part, it would be fine. Um, with taking some like long weekends and everything to go and explore some other areas.
yeah, yeah,
Because you know how Europe, like the Europe is not, it's really about seeing the cities and the architecture and stuff like that
mm,
across the entire country, with a bit of the countryside, of course, but not so much as some of the travel to say like your South America. South America gets a lot more rural as far as the excursions go, as far as what you want to see and do and everything.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
Particularly like,
I was thinking, well, just because some places are rural doesn't mean that they don't have the services and things that you need. For
no, not at all.
like for instance, like Austria, um, they have Vienna, which is their main city, and they have other cities outside. I can't think of them right now. But if you go to some of the rural areas where it's very mountainous, it's still technologically advanced out
Of course, yeah, they all are. It's just there might be certain areas where just like the accommodations and everything start to get to be a little tough for a day in and day out work circumstance.
there. Sure, sure.
Um,
Well, that almost sounds like to me it's more of like a time zone thing.
that can get tough too. The Southeast Asia would be extremely tough.
because you're
I'd be
talking.
working. I'd be working almost overnight.
You've been thinking a lot.
Which
You've been thinking a lot about this.
Southeast Asia looks awesome. I was looking. I totally got. I was bored. I was zoning out. I totally got hook, line, and sinker by this stupid top like 20 destinations ad. I won't even pretend. And then like top, like 4 of them were Bali, and I was like, I'm
Oh
going
yeah,
there
yeah.
tomorrow. I'm out of here. Like, when do I leave right now? There was one picture where I was like, and let's see what their restrictions are. Click, click, click. So
Uh,
yeah, it's just everything about it. It looks amazing.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a hot spot for all types of activity, and like I said, Bali is a hot spot for digital nomads. That's like, one of the most popular places for people to go to. It's
The
very
list is
it's very
so long.
accommodating. It's very
I
accommodating.
it seemed very accommodating. Some of the pictures looked extremely accommodating. It was lovely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this just needs to open. The list is absurdly long, and I need to get going. I can't. Need to get going. So, but the
Well,
big one is the list for to try and do Europe, and then see where that one goes. I think with a good 3, 4, 5 month stretch, 5 or 6 different central locations, I think that would work out the best. Recommendations is like the 1 month stays. You get the better discount on your Airbnbs. Get a great Airbnb, really centrally located.
mm,
Um, and then maybe even it's in between. Maybe 1 month you do the Airbnb for a stretch in an area, because I am planning, like Patrick's planning to go. I mean, obviously, you're at any time fly out, come and meet up across the entire
sure,
way.
sure, sure.
And then, who knows? Maybe you're out randomly traveling. You just talk to a friend, one of our friends, like, hey, like I already, like I have a place. Like you can just stay on the couch if you want to fly out for a while. Like it's no big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so we'll see how that goes. But then, I mean, so if you're traveling with someone else, and this, like, so if you're traveling with someone else, the Airbnb can be fine, because you
Mm,
can still go out, do other things, be interactive and social with everybody, but you're there. If you're just traveling kind of solo, I would definitely lean more towards the hostel environment that's conducive to the co-op location and everything, the co-op spaces, because you just get that other social aspect of it that you wouldn't get if you were in just like a singular Airbnb or anything.
yeah.
And actually, the prices are better solo when you're at a hostel than at an Airbnb. At least they're about even. When you get the 2 people and you're splitting a place, you can really get a great spot with the Airbnb for a really cheap price. As I was looking through some of them,
Yeah.
there was like this gorgeous condo with a pool for like 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath, brand new in Sevilla, Spain, for like it was like $1,100 for the month. Split between 2 people. So like, okay, I have a gorgeous apartment in the heart of like Sevilla, Spain, for like $500 for the whole month. Okay, it's
You,
not a
you,
bad deal.
you know what would happen? It's like you would. I just think of like red wine every night with like what's the like the ham that's really good. Um,
A little prosciutto.
the prosciutto. It's like
Oh man.
prosciutto, coffee at like noontime. It's like, yeah, right. Nice baguette or some type of bread. It's like,
Yeah. So that's the stretch there. Yeah. I don't know. Kind of random all over, but yeah, there's just a lot. I want to get out, go. It's been a good couple weeks back. I'm great. I actually like being back. The Colorado experience kind of reset me. Um, the hiking, the hiking does it a lot. You know how it is. Like those good, tough, like long hikes.
oh yeah,
Um,
the Huffman.
they're a really good way to mentally reset you by just draining out your body a little
Yeah,
bit. Um, so it was a good trip. It just has me ready has me ready for more.
Yeah.
I wish we had more people we could take along with us. You know,
I know.
they're few and far between.
Yeah, no, again, I got to apologize that this weekend, the guy from Czech Republic, the guy from Czech Republic sent me the version that I needed to work on. So that's what, on Saturday I was working on the game. I was like, oh crap, we're already 2 months behind releasing this thing. So.
No worries. No, not at all. I'm going to be going for the next weekend or two, or each weekend. I'm going to try and sneak up and go somewhere. So we'll talk about it after. Which actually is part of in Labor Day, a multi-day hike I'm planning on doing, which we didn't get to, but we'll cover next week.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a review of some gear. Got to get a tent. I really want a really light down coat. And after I get through all of these items, the bill for these things is ridiculous. Is not cheap at all for some of the stuff that I want.
What are you going to be hunting bears now too, or something?
No bears. No. Just some of like the really like good down light shells that are super breathable but really warm. But just shrink down. It's a few $100s for a really good one of those.
Yeah.
Your tents. I mean, once you start to get into tents that you can actually carry while backpacking, hiking, those get pricey quick.
Oh yeah. But the price is well worth it for the weight, for sure.
All of the items
are.
Like every extra pound, it adds up quick, and and the weight adds up quick.
Yeah. So we're 2 minutes over the hour. Everyone, thank you guys for joining us here. Be on the lookout for more episodes. We're gonna get back to the cooking at some point, but right now this is where we're at in life. So we're traveling. We're planning our travels and things like that. I'm gonna be gone in September, or mid-September, I should say. And Cruz sounds like he's about to fly off into some distant land as well. So
Croatia's open.
Croatia's open.
I just got to give him a negative test. That's it. And they say you're good. Croatia's on the list of places I'd love to go.
Oh yeah. I mean, Eastern Europe is just, I've never been to Europe. So, to me, it's just, those are areas that are on my list, and they're still on my list.
If other stuff's not open and there's a cheap flight to Croatia, just go to Croatia for like the month of October and come back. Why not?
Yeah. All right. So
and then just be like, okay, I couldn't go to the other countries because they're still closed, but I did that area. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So all
right, maybe I'll be out of here. Maybe it's Croatia in October. I'll let you know.
Yeah. So you guys, if you have any thoughts on travel and things like that, or maybe you want to join Cruiser, myself, and wherever we are in the world, we'll more than happy to hang out with you guys. So thank you very much. Do you have any closing comments, Cruz?
No, this stuff's been great. Love being back. Love the traveling. Hope everybody's, overall, of course, staying safe and everything, but don't let it get you down. Keep doing what you want to do. Don't bother other people, but don't let them restrict you either.
Definitely.
So that's kind of the big thing.
All right.